Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to The Sanctuary. I'm your host, Professor C, and we're going to do some more A&P lectures today. Specifically, we are going to check out posterior muscles of the torso. That would be, most people would call them shoulder muscles or the upper back muscles. Let's check them out. So, we've made it back to the back, so to speak, but this time we're going to avoid those postural muscles that help you hold your neck straight and help you hold your spine straight. And we'll talk more about the bodybuilder type of muscles in the back. These big ones here that are usually used to hold the shoulder in place or move it, or sometimes move the arm in certain actions. So let's check them out. First I'm going to do an overview, and then I'll do the details of each one if you want to see those. So let's talk about groups here. First of all, the thing to know is anything on this side of the image is more superficial than anything on this side of the image, which is deep to it. So that's why those pictures look weird. Yes, you do have symmetry when it comes to these muscles, but the superficials are on the left and the deepers are on the right. So this first group are these big ones over here. Now deltoid we've talked about. I'll put a little check by him. We know where deltoid is, this triangular muscle. I've already covered him in another lecture, but since he's there, I'll mention him again. Now trapezius is new to us. Again, the word suggests that it might look like a trapezoid shape, and it kind of does if you squint a little bit. If you kind of make a line here and go up to the bottom of the occipital bone here and then all the way down the spine, you kind of have a trapezoid. I mean, it's arguable, but I get what they're talking about. It does have a short side and a long side and so forth. Now, latissimus dorsi is the other giant superficial back muscle, and it's over here. I'll put lat. I think it's fairly obvious to see where that is here. But notice where it's attached here up to the humerus, which most people don't notice right away. So that muscle, even though it is in the back like that, is going to have something to do with moving the arm. All right, on the other side of the figure, we can talk about these group of three that are right next to the vertebral column. Levator scapulae is right here that I'm pointing at. And of course, by the name, it should raise your scapula. The two rhomboids are right underneath it. Rhomboid minor is the smaller one right here, and rhomboid major is the larger of the two right there. And it looks like they have something to do with pulling the scapula toward the vertebral column. You have this last group of four that is situated right around the scapula. So supraspinatus would be in the supraspinous fossa up here. Infraspinatus would be in the infraspinous fossa right there. And then the two teres muscles, they're always hard to see unless you strip everything else away. And then it kind of puts them in another view that looks strange to see. So teres minor is the smaller one here, and then teres major is the bigger one that's on bottom there. Okay, so there are the ones I want to cover in detail on the next few slides, so let's check them out. Let's start with trapezius. Again, it's supposed to be, looks like a trapezoid. I guess they're two trapezoids stuck together, so it kind of makes a large sheet of diamond-shaped muscle on the upper back and neck. So trapezius originates at the nuchal line. Again, that's up there on the occipital bone. So is the external occipital protuberance. Go check out some of my old videos on the occipital bone if you want to see those details. It also inserts on the vertebrae C7 to T12, at least on their spinous processes. Now, this muscle will insert in the clavicle, as you can see when the skeleton rotates to the front, and the acromion on the shoulder, and also the spine of the scapula. Lots of actions here because it's such a big muscle depending on which part of it that you are contracting, but rotation, retraction, elevation, depression, basically move the scapula in a lot of different ways. All right, this is innervated by cranial nerve number 11, also known as accessory nerve or spinal accessory nerve, and some other spinal branches. All right, coming down to latissimus dorsi. So originates here. I'll circle the iliac crest so we remember where that is. And then some of the spinous processes from T7 to L5, that would be right about here, and then down to the bottom of the lumbar vertebra. The inferior angle of the scapula, even though it's not shown very well, is right here, this little pokey part. It's not showing it attached too well, but it's attached there. And then some of the lower ribs, which is not shown at all. Inserts in the bicipital groove, also known as the intertubercular groove on the humerus. And again, because it is attached to the arm bone, that's primarily its action is to adduct. Adduct again means to pull it back toward the body like this. Extend, rotate the arm. It does, though, since it's so large, when you do contract it, it can contribute in a significant way to rotation of the entire trunk. This is innervated by spinal branches, or rami, C6 to C8. Okay, levator scapulae, just to remind you where it is. If we look at this group right here, he's the one on top. So originates at the transverse processes, the lateral processes of C1 to C4. Inserts very top of the medial border of the scapula right here, just right at the top of it. And of course, based on the name, it's got one action essentially to pull the scapula up to elevate it, and is innervated by spinal nerve C3 to C5. Now the rhomboids, I've just called them the rhomboids. These are the two rhomboid muscles. Sometimes you hear them called rhomboideus or something like that, but I can put a line here to divide them. And the smaller one, the one on top, is the rhomboid minor, and the larger one is the rhomboid major. So when it comes to the origins, the minor originates C7 to T1, and then the major is right below it, T2 to T5. Insertion is on the medial border, again, just like levator scapulae, but of course it takes up all the rest of the territory along that medial or vertebral border of the scapula. Retraction, rotation of the scapula, pulling it back toward the vertebral column. Innervated by spinal nerve C4 to C5. So these two are shown very well here. On top we have supraspinatus, and then on bottom there we have infraspinatus. Again, named so because you see the spine. I'll go ahead and put a green line down it right here. And so if you have a muscle above it, supraspinatus. And if you can remember from the bones lecture on the scapula, it sits right in the supraspinous fossa, and that's how it gets its name. Attaches to the greater tubercle of the humerus, and you can see that nicely illustrated right there. And so if you were to contract this muscle were to get shorter, it would cause the humerus to be pulled out as an abduction. It's hard to see that at first because the lever looks so strange to us, but that's what would happen. So action is abduct the arm, and stabilize the shoulder. Innervated by spinal nerve C5 and C6 branches. Infraspinatus is the one on bottom there, the one underneath, right, inferior to the spine of the scapula. Similar name, similar function, similar story, actually. Originates in the infraspinous fossa. Attaches also in the greater tubercle, although around the side of it a little bit more than we saw supraspinatus. Lateral rotation of the arm, that is, it helps you kind of swing it out this way, lateral rotation, and helps to stabilize the shoulder joint, innervated by the same thing as supraspinatus was. Last little guys here, again, they're hard to see in a lot of different pictures, but just sitting here kind of in how you would see it in a model, the muscle right here that I'm outlining would be teres minor, and the one down here on the bottom would be teres major, the two teres muscles. Right underneath here, which is infraspinatus, and here's supraspinatus. And of course you get giant deltoid covering up everybody and hiding those attachments underneath. So teres minor originates on the lateral border of the scapula, that is also known as the axillary border under the armpit. Inserts in the greater tubercle. Now you know why that tubercle in the humerus is so large, because a lot of these muscles that help to stabilize the shoulder are attached to it. Spinal nerves 5 and 6, same story we heard. Teres major, very similar. It's originates right down here at the very tip of the scapula, known as the inferior angle. And it just goes up to the lip of the bicipital or intertubercular groove. Doesn't quite fall into the groove, but it inserts on the edge of it. And same story as teres minor, really. Pull in the arm through adduction, help it rotate. This helps rotate medially and extend the arm. Innervated the same way. All right, hope you enjoyed that talk on the back muscles, shoulder muscles. Thanks for watching it to the end if you did. Check out some other videos in the series if you want to learn more about A&P. I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.